The alien princess watched him with a mixture of amusement and mild curiosity, because the human had arrived in her kingdom unannounced, small, unarmored, looking like nothing more than a child among towering figures of alien majesty, and she could not help but smile behind her ornate crown, thinking this creature could never endure the history-laden defenses of her castle. Yet there was something in his stance, something subtle in the set of his shoulders, that whispered he did not belong to the category of fragile beings she had dismissed so easily. Her court gathered around, adorned in flowing fabrics that shimmered with light, attendants whispering as they watched the human move, hands steady, eyes scanning the massive gates and battlements with a calm that bordered on audacity, and the princess leaned forward, intrigued despite herself, because centuries of inherited pride taught her that outsiders, especially small humans, were toys at best or nuisances at worst. Yet, here was one who seemed neither playful nor foolish. The sky shifted, clouds of iridescent color painting streaks above the spires of the castle, and alarms began to sound, distant at first, then rolling through the stone corridors like thunder, because the Titans had been sighted on the horizon. Creatures taller than towers, armored in living crystal, their steps cracking the earth with measured, destructive force, and the princess's court froze, unsure whether to flee or pray, because even seasoned warriors had perished when facing the Titans head-on. The human, unbothered by the rising tension, approached the princess's throne, bowing slightly, not in fear but in recognition of her station, and said that he had come not to claim the castle, not to negotiate, but to defend it, because his species understood the value of calculated intervention, and that even the smallest figure could alter the tide of an overwhelming threat. And murmurs rippled through the court, disbelief tempered with a strange flicker of hope. He moved swiftly then, not running, but walking with purpose, hands gesturing to the battlements as if reading them aloud, as if the castle itself spoke to him, pointing out weak points and strong currents of wind and stone telling him where Titans would land first. And the princess followed, curiosity replacing amusement, because she had never seen a human move like this. As if the very physics of the battlefield bent subtly to his understanding, the Titans arrived with staggering presence, each step sending vibrations through the foundations of the castle, and the human had already positioned defenders, both alien and human-trained auxiliaries, organizing them in ways the princess had never imagined, using the terrain, the walls, and even the Titan's predictable gait to set traps and channels of movement. And she realized then that the human did not fight with strength alone, but with understanding, with foresight that surpassed generations of experience. Blades of energy and plasma lances arced across the sky as Titans crashed against walls, testing the castle's defenses, and the human moved among his allies with calm authority, pointing, adjusting, and occasionally taking risks that seemed insane until the outcome revealed precision and timing. And each success drew gasps and murmurs of admiration from the princess and her court, because the childlike figure they had mocked was orchestrating survival with artistry and ruthless efficiency. She ordered reinforcements to the front gates, expecting to shield him from harm, but he waved them back, using his body as a fulcrum to redirect energy blasts, pivoting on his heels to channel Titan strikes into defensive barriers. And the crowd watched, hearts pounding, as blows that should have shattered bone or stone were absorbed, deflected, or repurposed. And the princess felt a jolt of recognition, understanding that this human was operating on a level she had never anticipated. The castle itself seemed to respond to his presence, shutters closing, drawbridges extending, turrets swiveling in alignment with his instructions, as if it recognized him as a commander. And the Titans began to falter, slowed by traps and diversions that made them stumble or clash with one another. And the princess's lips parted, because this display of intellect and agility, coming from someone she had thought a child, challenged her entire perception of strength. He shouted instructions, voice clear and commanding, his hands slicing through the air to illustrate movement patterns, redirecting troops in mid-action, and even the alien defenders, seasoned veterans of countless sieges, followed him without question, because there was clarity in his gestures, decisiveness in his timing, a rhythm to his control that made chaos obedient. And the princess, watching from above, realized that she had underestimated not only his strength, but the scope of his mind. The Titans struck repeatedly, massive arms swinging like wrecking cranes, jaws snapping with crystalline teeth that could crush shields. Yet the human countered, anticipating patterns, exploiting gaps in their armor, guiding explosives and energy lances to fracture joints and topple limbs. And each Titan that fell reinforced the awe building in the princess, because she had seen power before, raw, untempered, but she had never seen mastery like this, the fusion of thought and action that rendered titanic threats manageable. He moved like water through the battlefield, slipping where Titans expected him to stumble, pivoting around obstacles that should have crushed him, leveraging walls and towers as extensions of his body. And the defenders marveled, some whispering that he was not human, that no human could survive such a storm and maintain command with such composure. And she felt the stirrings of pride, tinged with incredulity, because this was not a child. This was a force of nature cloaked in human form. The first breach occurred at the eastern wall, Titans forcing their way through, and the human ran, not recklessly, but calculating each step, using their weight against themselves, channeling them into traps he had prepared, collapsing battlements beneath them, rolling energy fields over their feet, and the screams of Titans echoed through the castle, terrifying yet orchestrated, because every move he made ensured the maximum defensive impact with minimal casualties. And the princess's court fell silent, captivated by the unfolding genius. She descended from her throne, moving closer to the walls, wanting to see him in action, to witness how a human could achieve what her finest generals had failed to do. And as he coordinated the defense, she realized that the Titans, massive and indomitable, were being funneled into predictable patterns. And the human's understanding of physics, timing, and instinct created openings that had seemed impossible, and the princess's amusement had entirely vanished, replaced by astonishment and respect. The human paused briefly atop a collapsed turret, surveying the battlefield, then signaled with a sweep of his arm, and the defenders adjusted instantaneously, guiding a Titan into an energy pit that consumed it entirely, the ground trembling with the impact, and the princess's breath caught, because she had not expected a human to manipulate Titans with such precision, treating them not as monsters to be fought blindly, but as objects of strategy to be controlled and neutralized. Lightning arcs danced across the sky as Titans continued their assault, yet the human's plan unfolded flawlessly, deploying automated turrets, activating energy barriers, and coordinating squads to flank and redirect, each action building on the previous, a symphony of defense and anticipation. And the princess watched, heart pounding, because what she had assumed would be a simple spectacle of failure had become a masterclass in tactical genius. He moved again toward the main gate, Titans converging from multiple directions, and he calculated their trajectories, instructing the defenders to target structural weak points, timing charges to coincide with their footfalls, and with each calculated strike, walls groaned but held, Titans staggered but recovered slowly, and the princess's eyes widened because she had witnessed the impossible, a human bending chaos to order with nothing but wit, speed, and understanding. The eastern battlements shook under the pressure, stones cracking and splintering, yet the human remained calm, sliding along ledges, rolling over collapsed platforms, guiding reinforcements with signals and shouts. And every Titan that fell reinforced the awe in the princess, because she had underestimated both the depth of his courage and the brilliance of his mind, and she realized with clarity that he was not a child. He was a strategist, a warrior, and something beyond what her history had ever prepared her to respect. By the time the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold, the Titans had been repelled, scattered across the lands beyond the walls, some shattered, some retreating, all defeated not by raw force alone, but by the human's ingenuity. And the princess descended fully, approaching him with cautious reverence, her crown glinting in the last light, because she understood that the human had achieved what no one had before, defended her castle from creatures of legend, with nothing but his mind, timing, and determination. She extended her hand toward him, not in mockery or superiority, but in acknowledgement, saying that she had judged him wrongly, that she had expected a child and found a master. And he nodded slightly, humility and resolve in his expression, because the defense had been his duty. And the victory, though remarkable, had been the result of calculation, foresight, and discipline. And the princess's court whispered in awe, because they had witnessed a human rise to heights their legends had never predicted. And the castle, ancient and storied, bore silent witness to the triumph. Walls scarred but standing, towers trembling but unbroken, a testament not to the alien princess's strength alone, but to the brilliance of a human who had arrived underestimated, mocked and proven that courage, intelligence, and unyielding resolve could stand against titans and prevail. The morning after the initial attack, the castle stirred with uneasy activity, because even though the titans had been repelled, their assault had left destruction in its wake. Walls cracked, battlements splintered, and the human moved among the defenders with quiet authority, assessing damage, directing repairs, and ensuring that the castle's defenses would not falter if the titans returned. And the princess watched from the high balcony, noting how calmly he moved, how his gaze measured each section of the wall, each guard, each weapon emplacement, as though he could see the battle before it happened. Her court gathered to discuss strategy, advisors speaking in overlapping tones about reinforcements, traps, and energy reallocations. Yet the human intervened sparingly, his suggestions concise but precise, rearranging squads, reallocating ammunition and energy barriers, and the alien soldiers, accustomed to ornate ceremonies and hierarchical commands, followed him without hesitation, because there was certainty in his decisions, a clarity born of experience and instinct that none of the generals had ever commanded. The princess approached him finally, curiosity tempered with the remnants of her pride, asking how he had calculated the Titan movements, how he had predicted their attacks with such accuracy, and he answered simply, saying that patterns exist in all things, that weight, momentum, and intent are predictable if observed carefully, and that fear clouds judgment, whereas calm allows one to see what others overlook. And she listened, intrigued despite herself, because she had seen centuries of generals fail to anticipate what he achieved instinctively. As night fell, scouts returned from the perimeter, reporting strange activity, Titan remnants regrouping, energy signatures flickering beyond the horizon, and the human gathered his small council, outlining a plan to fortify the walls, establish traps, and anticipate the next strike. And he did so not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence, assigning tasks based on observation and probability, while the princess realized that she had underestimated not his strength but his mind, which operated with precision, foresight, and an unshakable calm. The next wave of titans approached under the cover of twilight, their massive forms casting shadows across the courtyard, and the defenders readied themselves under the human's guidance, moving with fluid coordination, shields raised, energy weapons primed, turrets aligned with the vectors he had calculated, and the princess followed his movements closely, noting how he repositioned units at the last moment, exploiting openings in the Titans' approach. Turning their size and speed into vulnerabilities, the Titans struck, massive limbs smashing into walls, jaws snapping at anything that moved, but the human was already in motion, guiding defenders, adjusting defenses, redirecting kinetic energy with precise steps and gestures, and the alien soldiers marveled at how he seemed to anticipate the Titans' moves before they occurred, because every strike he countered, every maneuver he orchestrated, displayed not brute force but understanding, turning chaos into manageable flows of action. One Titan smashed through the outer gate, its crystalline claws ripping through stone and metal alike, and the human ran to intercept, not recklessly, but calculating, leading it toward a pre-positioned trap, using its momentum to trigger energy fields that immobilized it momentarily, giving the defenders time to flank and disable it. And the princess's heart raced as she realized that the human's plan relied as much on timing and precision as on courage, that each step was calculated for maximum effect with minimal risk. Smoke and energy arcs filled the courtyard as Titans fell one by one, each defeat orchestrated rather than fought with blind aggression. And the princess's court could not hide their astonishment, because they had witnessed beings of unimaginable size subdued by someone they had assumed was fragile, and she felt a flicker of shame for underestimating him, tempered by admiration for the intelligence and courage that radiated from his every movement. The human moved toward the central gate, where the largest titan had gathered, directing squads to fire in synchronized bursts, collapsing part of the battlements strategically to guide the titan into a channel he had prepared. And as it struggled, its massive limbs clanging against energy barriers, he signaled the defenders to strike weak points, bringing down the titan with a coordinated series of calculated hits. And the princess's eyes widened, because she understood that this was not brute force, but the application of knowledge, timing, and instinct in perfect harmony. He paused briefly, scanning the battlefield, then dashed to the eastern wall, where titans were attempting to regroup, signaling a coordinated counterattack, moving with the fluidity of someone who had anticipated every possible action and prepared for it, while the defenders responded instantly to his guidance, creating a rhythm of movement and reaction that left the titans disoriented, staggering, unable to recover from the precision and timing of the human's maneuvers. From the high towers, the princess watched as he executed a complex strategy, using the castle itself as a weapon, collapsing sections at precise moments, channeling titans into narrow corridors, and redirecting their momentum to prevent structural damage, all while ensuring that no defender was unnecessarily harmed. And she realized that she had underestimated him not only as a fighter, but as a commander, someone capable of understanding and manipulating the flow of battle in ways she had never imagined. The titans roared, their massive bodies colliding with barriers, walls, and each other. Yet the human remained composed, moving along ledges, instructing reinforcements, adjusting traps in real time, and every action he took amplified the efficiency of the defenders, turning overwhelming numbers into manageable threats. And the princess's pride shifted to respect as she recognized that he had transformed the castle into a coordinated instrument of defense, each element harmonizing under his direction. A titan managed to breach the southern gate, its claws tearing through stone, but the human anticipated its movement, redirecting it into a channel where energy traps and gravity fields immobilized it, and defenders quickly disabled it, the collapse echoing through the halls, while he leapt down to check on squads, correcting placements, signaling adjustments. And the princess's amazement grew, because she realized that no human had ever fought with such understanding of terrain, momentum, and the interplay of forces. Smoke rose, energy arcs crackled, alarms blared, yet the human moved with calm authority, guiding every squad, directing every turret, timing every countermeasure to coincide perfectly with titan movements. And his presence inspired defenders, instilling confidence and focus where fear might have otherwise ruled, because he combined observation, prediction, and decisive action in a way that turned an impossible defense into a series of achievable maneuvers. As the night deepened, the titans began to falter, their coordinated assault broken by the human strategy, their momentum used against them, traps triggered with precision, and the defenders held their ground with renewed confidence because the human's calm and mastery created a sense of inevitability, each strike and maneuver reinforcing the idea that the castle would not fall. And the princess leaned forward, her amusement completely replaced by awe, because she realized that she had judged him wrongly, that he was neither child nor weakling, but a strategist and warrior of unparalleled ability. Finally, as the last of the titans were routed or destroyed, the human moved among the defenders, checking wounds, ensuring barricades were secure, and even the exhausted soldiers recognized the hand guiding them had prevented greater loss. And the princess descended from her balcony, stepping onto the main courtyard, crown glinting in the moonlight, approaching him not as a superior, but as a witness. Because she understood that she had underestimated him at her peril, she extended her hand in acknowledgement, saying that she had expected a child and found a master, and he bowed slightly. Humility and focus in his expression, because he had performed his duty not for recognition, but because the castle's defense depended on precision, foresight, and unyielding resolve, and the princess's court murmured in awe, because they had witnessed a human rise to heights they had believed impossible. Standing against titans and prevailing, the walls, scarred but intact, bore witness to the battle, towers trembling but unbroken, energy arcs flickering in the aftermath, a testament not only to the human's courage but to his intelligence, timing, and ability to unify chaos into ordered action. And the princess, finally seeing him for what he truly was, realized that strength is not measured by size or age but by mastery, foresight, and the courage to stand unwavering when giants approach. The day after the battle, the castle stirred with the sounds of reconstruction because even though the titans had been driven back, their assault had left walls cracked, towers leaning, and battlements splintered, and the human moved through the ruins with the same deliberate focus he had shown in battle, inspecting weak points, reinforcing structures, coordinating squads to repair defenses. And the princess observed him from the high balcony, noting the calm authority in his movements, the quiet precision with which he assessed every detail, and she could not help but marvel at how a being she had once assumed a child could possess such mastery. Advisors crowded around the princess, offering plans, contingencies, and strategies, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of anxiety. Yet the human spoke little, intervening only when necessary. His instructions concise and actionable, moving troops, adjusting energy shields, and positioning turrets with almost imperceptible gestures, and the alien soldiers, accustomed to ceremonial protocol and complex hierarchies, obeyed him without hesitation because they sensed a certainty in his decisions that exceeded even the most experienced generals. The princess descended from her balcony, curiosity and a spark of respect guiding her, and asked him how he had calculated the Titan's movements, how he had predicted attacks so flawlessly. And he answered simply, saying that every creature, no matter how enormous, moves according to patterns, that weight, momentum, and intent create predictable behaviors, and that fear clouds judgment, whereas calm observation reveals opportunities. And she listened, captivated, because she had witnessed centuries of generals fail where he had succeeded instinctively. Scouts returned with troubling news, reporting unusual energy signatures on the horizon, remnants of titans regrouping, smaller units testing the perimeter, and the human immediately gathered a small council of trusted defenders, outlining a proactive plan to reinforce the castle, establish secondary traps, and anticipate the next assault. And he did so without arrogance, his voice steady, conveying confidence without entitlement, while the princess realized that she had misjudged him not only in physical ability, but in strategic thinking. As twilight descended, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the titans returned, their colossal forms striking terror into even the most seasoned soldiers, their steps shaking the ground, their claws tearing through stone, and the human moved among the defenders with unmatched coordination, signaling precisely when to fire, where to retreat, and how to leverage terrain to their advantage. And the alien soldiers followed him instinctively, because the clarity and decisiveness of his commands left no room for hesitation. The titans struck with immense force, massive limbs smashing walls, jaws snapping at anything in their path. Yet the human was always ahead of them, predicting their attacks, guiding defenders into optimal positions, redirecting energy fields and kinetic traps, turning every hazard into an opportunity to neutralize the threat. And the princess's heart raced as she realized that this was not brute force alone, but mastery, intelligence, and foresight applied in perfect harmony. One titan breached the eastern gate, tearing through battlements, but the human anticipated its movement, guiding it into a channel where traps and energy fields immobilized it temporarily, giving defenders time to flank and disable it. And the princess watched in disbelief as what should have been catastrophic became controlled, manageable, and she understood for the first time that strength was not measured solely by size or power, but by the ability to control and manipulate circumstances. Smoke and energy arcs filled the courtyard, alarms blaring, chaos threatening to overwhelm, yet the human moved with serene authority, coordinating squads, adjusting defensive barriers, timing counterattacks with precision. and the soldiers, inspired by his composure, executed maneuvers flawlessly, turning the seemingly impossible defense into a series of calculated actions, and the princess felt awe stir within her, because she had underestimated not just his courage, but his capacity to lead and command under pressure. The largest Titan, a towering figure armored in living crystal, approached the central gate, and the human calculated its trajectory, positioning squads and activating traps to exploit weaknesses, timing each action so that the massive creature's own momentum worked against it. And as it stumbled into a channel filled with energy barriers and collapsing stone, defenders struck simultaneously at its joints, bringing it down with coordinated precision, and the princess's eyes widened, because she realized that his method was genius. Not luck. He paused atop a section of collapsed battlement, surveying the battlefield, then moved toward the southern wall, where smaller Titans were attempting to regroup, signaling reinforcements and adjusting positions, moving with fluidity and confidence, and the defenders responded instantly, creating a rhythm of action that disoriented the Titans, breaking their coordination and leaving them vulnerable. And the princess leaned forward, fascinated, because she had underestimated his understanding of both strategy and terrain. Lightning arcs danced across the sky as the Titans pressed their assault, yet the human anticipated each move, guiding units to optimal positions, triggering traps, and redirecting energy fields, every action precise, every maneuver calculated, and the alien soldiers followed his lead with unwavering confidence, because his presence and mastery created a sense of inevitability. The Titan's advance no longer chaotic but subject to his control, and the princess's admiration deepened, tempered with a hint of incredulity. A Titan breached the southern battlements, claws tearing stone, but the human reacted instantly, positioning it into a channel of energy traps and gravity wells, immobilizing it, while defenders struck at its weak points and the collapse echoed through the courtyard. Yet, he remained calm, moving among squads, correcting placements, signaling adjustments, and every action demonstrated his deep understanding of momentum, structure, and combat dynamics, leaving the princess in awe because she realized he was not a child nor weak, but a masterful tactician and warrior. The battlefield became a symphony of calculated movements, defenders flowing in response to signals, energy barriers pulsing in time with Titan motions, and the human orchestrated each action with fluidity and precision, exploiting the Titan's size and predictability. And the princess, finally descending fully to the main courtyard, observed with amazement, crown gleaming, because she understood that he had transformed the castle into an instrument of strategic mastery. Every stone, turret, and squad aligned under his direction. The Titans faltered, their assault broken by his orchestration, momentum redirected against them, traps triggered at precise moments, defenders holding positions with renewed confidence, and the princess realized that she had judged him wrongly, that he was neither child nor weakling, but a being capable of commanding chaos with intellect, timing, and courage. And as he moved among the defenders, checking barricades and ensuring safety, even the exhausted soldiers recognized his guidance had prevented greater losses. Finally, as the last of the Titans were repelled or destroyed, the human stood amidst the rubble, surveying the battlefield with calm authority, ensuring every threat had been neutralized. And the princess approached, acknowledging his mastery, extending her hand in respect, saying that she had expected a child and found a master. And he bowed slightly, humility and focus in his expression, because he had performed his duty, defending the castle with foresight, skill, and unyielding resolve. The walls, though scarred, remained standing, towers trembling but intact, and the castle bore witness to a victory achieved not by raw strength, but by intelligence, timing, and strategic mastery. And the princess, finally recognizing him for what he truly was, realized that courage and intellect could outmatch brute power, and that the human she had underestimated had proven that even the smallest form could command titanic forces and shape the outcome of a battle. The morning after the battle, the castle was alive with activity, because although the Titans had been repelled, their assault had left devastation in its wake, and the human moved among the ruins with steady, purposeful steps, inspecting walls, reinforcing weak points, coordinating squads to repair battlements and energy barriers, while the princess watched from above, noting his calm authority. The way he seemed to read the battlefield as though it were a living entity, and she could not help but feel admiration tempered with disbelief, because the being she had thought a child had proven a master strategist. Advisors crowded around the princess, voices overlapping with suggestions for defensive fortifications, reinforcements, and contingency plans. Yet the human intervened sparingly, offering precise instructions, moving soldiers and defenders into positions that maximized efficiency, reallocating energy fields, repositioning turrets and the alien soldiers, trained in centuries of ceremony and hierarchy, followed without hesitation, because his clarity of command left no room for doubt. And even the most skeptical generals deferred to his judgment. The princess descended from her balcony, curiosity finally outweighing pride, and asked him how he had calculated the Titans' movements, how he had anticipated their strikes with such precision, and he answered simply, saying that every force has a pattern, that weight, momentum, and intent create predictable behaviors, and that calm observation allows one to see possibilities where panic obscures them. And she listened, intrigued and humbled, because she had witnessed centuries of leaders fail where he had succeeded instinctively. Scouts returned with reports of Titan remnants regrouping, testing perimeters, and smaller units moving in patterns designed to probe weaknesses. And the human gathered his small council immediately, outlining a plan to fortify the castle, establish secondary traps, and anticipate the next wave of attacks. And he did so without arrogance, voice steady, decisions deliberate, while the princess began to understand that she had misjudged him not just in physical capability, but in intellect and foresight. Twilight descended, painting the walls and towers in violet and gold as the next wave of Titans approached, their colossal forms looming on the horizon, each step shaking the ground, claws tearing through stone, and the human moved among defenders with unmatched coordination, signaling when to fire, where to retreat, how to exploit terrain, and the soldiers obeyed instinctively, because his instructions had clarity and certainty that left no room for hesitation. The Titans struck with devastating force, massive limbs smashing walls, jaws snapping at anything in reach, yet the human was always ahead of them, anticipating attacks, guiding squads into optimal positions, redirecting energy traps and barriers, turning threats into opportunities. And the princess's heart pounded as she realized that his mastery was not brute strength but intelligence, foresight, and timing applied in perfect harmony. One Titan breached the eastern gate, tearing through battlements, but the human anticipated its path, guiding it into a narrow channel where pre-positioned traps immobilized it temporarily, giving defenders time to flank and disable it. And the princess watched, awe rising, as chaos became controlled and manageable, and she understood for the first time that strength was not measured by size or force, but by the ability to predict, manipulate, and exploit circumstances. Smoke rose, energy arcs crackled, alarms blared. Yet the human moved with calm authority, coordinating reinforcements, adjusting defensive barriers, timing counterattacks with precision, and the alien soldiers followed without hesitation, because his presence created confidence, and the rhythm of his commands turned a chaotic battlefield into a symphony of coordinated movements, inspiring awe and respect in all who watched, including the princess. The largest Titan, armored in living crystal, approached the central gate, and the human calculated its trajectory, positioning squads, activating traps, and timing each maneuver so that its momentum worked against it. And as the creature stumbled into a channel of energy barriers and collapsing stone, defenders struck simultaneously at weak points, bringing it down with orchestrated precision. And the princess's eyes widened, because this was not luck, but careful strategy, intelligence, and anticipation in action. He paused atop a collapsed turret, scanning the battlefield, then dashed to the southern wall, where smaller Titans were regrouping, signaling reinforcements, adjusting positions, moving with fluidity and confidence. and the defenders responded instantly, creating a rhythm of action that disoriented the Titans, breaking their coordination, leaving them vulnerable, and the princess leaned forward, fascinated, because she had underestimated his understanding of strategy and terrain. Lightning arced across the sky as Titans pressed their assault, yet the human anticipated every move, guiding units into optimal positions, triggering traps, redirecting energy fields, every action precise, every maneuver calculated, and the alien soldiers moved with unwavering confidence because his calm mastery created a sense of inevitability. The Titans advanced subject to his control, and the princess's admiration deepened. Tempered with incredulity, a Titan breached the southern battlements, claws tearing stone, but the human reacted instantly, directing it into energy traps and gravity wells, immobilizing it, while defenders struck at vulnerable joints, and the collapse echoed through the courtyard. Yet he remained calm, moving among squads, correcting placements, signaling adjustments, demonstrating his deep understanding of momentum, structure, and combat dynamics, leaving the princess in awe, because he was neither child nor weakling, but a master tactician, a warrior of extraordinary skill. The battlefield became a symphony of coordinated movement, defenders flowing in response to his signals, energy barriers pulsing in rhythm with Titan motions, each maneuver designed to exploit weaknesses and control momentum, and the human orchestrated every action with fluidity and precision, while the princess, descending fully into the courtyard, observed with amazement, crown glinting, because she realized he had transformed the castle into an instrument of strategic mastery. Every stone, turret, and soldier aligned under his direction. The Titans faltered, their assault broken by his orchestration, momentum redirected against them, traps triggered with perfect timing, defenders holding positions with renewed confidence. And the princess understood that she had judged him wrongly, that he was neither child nor weakling, but a being capable of commanding chaos with intellect, timing, and courage. And as he moved among defenders, checking barricades, ensuring safety, even the exhausted soldiers recognized his guidance had prevented greater losses. Finally, as the last Titans were routed or destroyed, the humans stood amidst the rubble, surveying the battlefield with calm authority, ensuring every threat was neutralized. And the princess approached, acknowledging his mastery, extending her hand in respect, saying that she had expected a child and found a master, and he bowed slightly, humility and focus in his expression, because he had performed his duty, defending the castle, with foresight, skill, and unyielding resolve. The walls, though scarred, remained standing, towers trembling but intact, and the castle bore witness to a victory, achieved not by raw strength alone, but by intelligence, timing, and strategic mastery. And the princess, finally recognizing him for what he truly was, realized that courage and intellect could outmatch brute power, and that the human she had underestimated had proven that even the smallest form could command titanic forces and shape the outcome of battle. The human moved through the courtyard, giving instructions for repairs, checking every defense, ensuring the castle was ready for any follow-up, while the princess observed silently, understanding that she had witnessed something extraordinary, because he had not only survived but had mastered the battlefield, turning chaos into control, teaching all who watch that true strength is measured not in size or age, but in the ability to think, act, and endure under pressure. The castle lay quiet in the hours before dawn, the echoes of battle still lingering in the stones and air, because although the Titans had been repelled, the human moved among the ruins with careful attention, inspecting walls, reinforcing battlements, and coordinating the remaining defenders to ensure that no weakness remained. While the princess watched from the high balcony, admiration tempered with awe, because she understood that he was no longer the child she had assumed him to be, but a strategist, a warrior, and a master of the battlefield. Advisors and generals gathered, their faces lined with fatigue, their voices full of questions and theories. Yet the human spoke sparingly, issuing clear and concise instructions, adjusting placements, reallocating energy shields, and repositioning squads to optimize defense. And the soldiers, trained for centuries under rigid command structures, followed him without hesitation, because the certainty in his guidance inspired confidence, transforming anxiety into coordinated action. And the princess realized that she had underestimated not just his courage but his intellect. The scouts returned with news of Titan activity at the far reaches of the surrounding lands, smaller units probing the outskirts, energy signatures flickering beyond detection, and the human immediately began planning, outlining strategies to intercept and neutralize threats before they reached the castle, establishing traps and secondary defenses, coordinating patrols with precision and doing so without arrogance, voice steady, each instruction deliberate, while the princess observed, understanding that she had misjudged him in every possible way. As dawn broke, painting the sky in streaks of orange and violet, the next wave of Titans appeared on the horizon, colossal and imposing, their forms casting shadows across the courtyard. And the human moved among defenders with fluid coordination, signaling when to fire, where to retreat, how to exploit the terrain, and the alien soldiers, trained for centuries, obeyed without hesitation, because the clarity of his commands left no room for error, transforming fear into confidence and uncertainty into strategic advantage. The Titans struck with relentless force, massive limbs smashing walls, jaws snapping at anything in reach, yet the human anticipated every move, guiding defenders into optimal positions, redirecting kinetic traps and energy barriers, turning threats into manageable flows of action. And the princess's pulse raced as she realized that mastery was not brute strength, but understanding, timing, and precise execution applied flawlessly under pressure. One Titan breached the eastern gate, tearing through battlements, yet the human remained calm, guiding it into a channel where traps and gravity wells immobilized it temporarily, allowing defenders to flank and neutralize it. And the princess watched in stunned admiration as the chaos of battle became organized, controlled, and manipulated. And she understood that true strength is measured not by size but by the ability to shape outcomes through intellect and anticipation. Smoke, energy arcs, and alarms filled the courtyard. Yet the human moved with serene authority, coordinating reinforcements, adjusting barriers, timing counterattacks with exacting precision. And the soldiers, inspired by his confidence, executed maneuvers flawlessly, turning the seemingly impossible defense into a symphony of orchestrated movements. And the princess's awe deepened, tempered with disbelief, because she had underestimated both his courage and his tactical brilliance. The largest Titan, a towering figure of living crystal, approached the central gate, and the human calculated its path, positioning squads and activating traps with perfect timing, using its own momentum against it. And, as it stumbled into the channel of collapsing stone and energy barriers, defenders struck simultaneously at its weak points, toppling it in a coordinated assault. And the princess's eyes widened because she realized that every victory had been achieved through strategy, anticipation, and understanding, not raw force. He paused atop a collapsed turret, surveying the battlefield, then dashed toward the southern wall, where smaller Titans were regrouping, signaling reinforcements, adjusting positions, moving with fluidity and confidence, while defenders responded instantly, creating a rhythm of coordinated action that disoriented the Titans, broke their advance, and left them vulnerable. And the princess leaned forward, captivated, because she had underestimated his ability to unify chaos into effective control. Lightning arcs danced across the sky as Titans pressed their assault, yet the human anticipated each attack, guiding units to optimal positions, triggering traps and redirecting energy fields with perfect timing. And the alien soldiers moved with unwavering confidence, because his calm mastery created a sense of inevitability. The Titan's advance no longer chaotic, but subject to his orchestration. And the princess's admiration deepened, tempered with amazement. A Titan breached the southern battlements, claws tearing stone, but the human reacted instantly, directing it into energy traps and gravity wells, immobilizing it while defenders struck at its vulnerable joints, the collapse echoing through the courtyard. Yet he remained calm, moving among squads, correcting placements, signaling adjustments, demonstrating his understanding of momentum, structure, and battle dynamics. leaving the princess in awe, because he was neither child nor weakling, but a master tactician and warrior. The battlefield became a symphony of coordinated movement, defenders flowing in response to his signals, energy barriers pulsing in rhythm with Titan motions, each maneuver designed to exploit weaknesses and control momentum, while the human orchestrated every action with fluidity and precision, and the princess, descending fully into the courtyard, observed with amazement, crown gleaming, because she understood that he had transformed the castle into an instrument of strategic mastery. Every stone, turret, and soldier aligned under his direction. The Titans faltered, their assault broken by his orchestration, momentum redirected against them, traps triggered at precise moments, defenders holding positions with renewed confidence. And the princess realized that she had judged him wrongly, that he was neither child nor weakling, but a being capable of commanding chaos with intellect, timing, and courage. And as he moved among defenders, checking barricades, ensuring safety, even exhausted soldiers recognized that his guidance had prevented greater losses. Finally, as the last of the Titans were routed or destroyed, the humans stood amidst the ruins, surveying the battlefield with calm authority, ensuring every threat was neutralized. And the princess approached, acknowledging his mastery, extending her hand in respect, saying that she had expected a child and found a master. And he bowed slightly, humility and focus in his expression, because he had performed his duty, defending the castle with foresight, skill, and unyielding resolve. The walls, though scarred, remained standing, towers trembling but intact, a testament not only to his courage but to his intelligence, timing, and strategic mastery. And the princess, finally recognizing him for what he truly was, understood that courage and intellect could outmatch brute power, that the human she had underestimated had proven that even the smallest form could command titanic forces and shape the outcome of battle, and that strength was measured not by age, size, or appearance, but by mastery, foresight, and unwavering resolve. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating the battered but resilient castle, the human moved through the courtyard, giving instructions for repairs, checking defenses, ensuring that every weak point was addressed, while the princess observed silently, understanding that she had witnessed something extraordinary, because he had not only survived, but had commanded the battlefield, transformed chaos into order, and demonstrated that true strength lies in courage, intellect, and the ability to act decisively under pressure.